So unfortunately, I'm having technical issues with my camera, so I'm shooting my videos like this at the moment. I know it's not ideal, but um, and you're just gonna hear my audio. Though, if you guys like this, maybe I'll just do this from now on. Today we're talking about Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio movie. This movie I've been excited for since it was announced because anything Guillermo del Toro does, I am at least interested. I really enjoyed his last film, Nightmare Alley, so I was excited to see this one. And it's stop motion, so of course I freaking adore stop motion. With that said, after Wendell and Wild, I was a little hesitant going into this project because, I mean, that movie had a director that I think has about as good of a track record as Guillermo del Toro, and yet he still pulled off a pretty shitty movie that's probably going to be on the worst of the year list. This movie's fantastic, though. And I think it is a hard watch the first time you watch it. This movie, I think, maybe would require two viewings for some people. I'm not one of those people, but I think that the first time you watch this movie, you're questioning things because most of us are familiar with that Disney version. I'm talking the animated Disney version, not the live action one. And so this is a very famous story that's been adapted many times, but most of us know this Disney version that's so beloved and classic. And I think that when you watch this movie, part of you is waiting for those moments to happen, and they do, but they're quite varied. But also, this movie is very sad, and it's very emotional. And we'll get into that in a minute, but that does make it hard to digest on the first watch. And there are a lot of things that happen throughout the story that feel disjointed and kind of cluttered throughout this movie. It is a long movie for a Pinocchio adaptation. It's 2 hours. It needs that runtime, but when you're watching the film, it does make a very disjointed film because of that. And so well, I wouldn't say it's disjointed. It feels disjointed. That's why it's kind of requires two viewings. I say is because like the first time you watch it, you're not really understanding the themes or the message or the story until the very end of it, and you kind of like you get some ideas throughout the film, but grow to really understand by the end of it. And so I think a second view will make the pacing a lot better. I think what was great about this movie is about Geppetto, who loses his son at a very young age. So he builds this wooden boy, and it's a story about grief, about love, uh, life and death, and what that means, and what it truly means to be alive. And it's a theme that is portrayed so well throughout the movie. It is just incredibly somber, though. So the animation is some of the most gorgeous animation, but just when you're able to see characters cry throughout this film, it is truly horrible throughout this film because it's gut wrenching. You really feel the emotions. The voice acting is fantastic. We got Ron Perlman doing a voice in here, and we got Tilda Swinton, Kate Blanchett, Ewan McGregor, and so many others doing voices who are all fantastic in this movie. And I just, man, this is one of the best movies of the year, just in terms of what it's saying. Uh, it's just every second of this film is gorgeous. There's a few songs in the movie that are all very good, very memorable, and the score to this film's great. Just so much great about this movie. It's one of the best films I've seen all year. When I saw the menu, I was telling my boss at work that it was one of my top three favorite movies of the year. Now it's my top four because this is in running contention with my top three now. And this one's fantastic. And everybody needs to go see this movie on Netflix. I wish I had gotten to see this thing in theaters because this is just a magnificent piece of art. It's honestly, this is one of Guillermo del Toro's best movies. It's probably top 3 material. Just absolutely just breathtaking, emotional, and just it gave me a lot to think about life. And I think that's why it's nice that this film's coming out in December. Is this movie's coming out at Christmas time, and if you're like me, I go through a lot of seasonal depression disorder during Christmas time, and so just remembering, it's what's important about being alive and the connections that we make and things like that. It's just really heart wrenching, and I just appreciate that when so many people are trying to be together for the holidays and things like that. And I know that's not the intention of the filmmakers when this film released, but at the same time, it's nice. Really love this movie.